2 of Shudder, September 2025. And it's, week 2, week 3. Week 3, I can't even remember. But it's a week, and it's back, and this is a really good, movie. I really like this movie. It's in violent nature. I've called it, in many places, the best Friday 13th movie, and I'll stand by that. And I've talked about this before on channel, like Late Night with the Devil, but this movie, what I really love about it is it takes time to just stop. I think lots of horror movies think that they need to be constant movement, and sometimes they do, but other times I like movies like this where I know it's been criticised because it's slow, but I think things like the killer walking through the forest, like, we know what he's walking towards. We know what's going to happen, and you don't need lots of fanfare. Sometimes it's just a slow and steady walk, and when he gets to where he needs to get to, it's just so brilliantly cinematic. I think it's definitely something horror movies don't really have the ability to do anymore. I think something like Late Night with the Devil 2, where it's just, take your time. You know, this whole Harvey Weinstein thing that he popularised moves like Scream, where it's like, oh, you gotta have like a violent death every 10 minutes. No, you don't necessarily need that. You just need the tension, you know? The whole point of it is when something like that happens, when big set piece happens, you need to reset and then build up again. And I think that's what best horror movies do. And I think, for my money, this is up there. And I think it's also something, one of those examples of movies that Shudder getting is so awesome about. Because this is not a mainstream movie. Despite that, it kind of went in mainstream a little bit. It's not. This is a very art house movie to the extent where it's gotten reviews from people who I actually am friends with, which I feel may be a bit too critical. But I understand where it's coming from, because it is very, I think this is a definition for repeat watch movie, because there's so much layer and depth to it that you don't normally suspect from this sort of movie. And it definitely does have that feel of something like a Malick, where it's like, it's the vibe rather than necessarily the plot. And this movie, it feels like we're stumbling in, because most of it's from the killer's perspective. Obviously, we get bits and pieces of that story. We don't get the whole thing. Now, granted, the movie doesn't recommit to that completely, because there's a few times when it'll have, like, the campfire bit, where it doesn't give us everything. It holds back on a lot, but it does feel a bit less of a POV or perspective. But, I mean, you have to understand that it's difficult to necessarily commit to, like, the bit entirely. I personally probably would have loved this movie even more if it had. But I get the young actors, they want their stuff, they want their moments. And I think, yeah, from that regard, yeah, I definitely see the critique, but I think it still works brilliantly, because they give us as little as they possibly can. We learn bits and drabs about the characters, about backstory, about Ranger, about things which happened, but one, we don't get flashbacks, which is amazing, which is such a great way to sort of skirt convention, and two, we only get enough the movie to work. We don't get we get kind of an info dump from Ranger, but not really, because it's still really vague. And in some ways, it definitely feels like a movie we never saw was made. Like, there's a movie called A Violent Nature, set during that early period, and we never got that movie. And this is almost a sequel to something which they've made, which I still think is one, of course, I deserve. But I think my favourite part of this movie is the fact that it goes over the top. Like, the deaths are just disgusting, and it's really, it kind of postulates that theory that Michael and Jason were super intelligent in terms of sort of like, and creative, but also somewhat childlike. Because this guy's, the death sequences in this movie are gross, but also really creatively over the top. So yeah, I love this movie. I think it's really good. And I also think it has one of the best endings of horror movie I've seen in ages, because the tension is what you think's going to happen doesn't happen. They subvert expectations by, just having the most mundane ending humanly imaginable to horror movie. But it works. I think that's the thing about this movie, it just works. Now, my have other complaints. One is that there's a Blu-ray version of this movie. It's available in the UK, which has no special features on it, which is really fucking annoying. In fact, that's one of my things Shudder as a whole. I wish they'd have more special features on their app. Also I should say that it's my VPN which was screwing up Shudder on this thing, so I do have to apologise to Shudder for being so critical of their app in my Toxic Avenger review, but to be fair, VPN shouldn't change that, so I was using a UK address, and I'm a UK resident, so it's done. Yeah, I mean, more space features, and also, I don't know if I want a sequel to this. I feel like you could do one, but this movie feels unique, and I don't really think you should mess with that. Anyway, yeah, really, really good movie. Much better than that trash I watched last week, except for Late Night with Devil. So I'd go for 4 out of 5 for this. I still think holds up. Not as good as the first time I saw it in cinemas, but it's very enjoyable. So, what's tomorrow? I think it's a One Ball Knife.